Good morning, everybody. It's Randy with Carchaeology, and we've got another shop day going on today. Sebastian is on his way over. I've got new oil and oil filter and radiator hoses and that sort of thing for the Jag. I've got it on the trailer after coming back from Ben's to have the fabrication done on the transmission cover. We also got the hood hinges sorted out, which is awesome. So now the hood opens and closes properly. In any case, we're going to mess around with that for a little bit, and then we're going to move some cars around and get the Brubaker Box out of the lab here and over to a spot where it's going to be painted, hopefully next week. Also, we've been working a little bit on the Mercedes, as you've seen in some of the videos that we're working on, doing some interior work and that sort of thing. We might play around with that a bit. Unfortunately, the radiator is still not done for the car, and that's driving me totally insane. I want to get this thing up and running and really focus on it. But in the downtime, it's meaning that a lot of stuff is happening to the Jaguar, and that's really totally awesome. Let's see, other things to mention. The blue Meyers Manx, this one that's right here. I've actually got this up on eBay right now. I will put a link in the comments so that you can check it out if somebody's interested in a good original Meyers Manx. This definitely is that. And hopefully it finds a new owner and we get some funds that will go towards these other projects we're working on. In any case, follow along for the day. I'll show you what we're up to and see what sort of trouble we get into. Thanks.
Now the first step is to drain out the old nasty oil. Now we probably should have done this before we started the engine for the first time. Well, we didn't. But fortunately, no harm, no foul. It looks like the oil was actually pretty clean despite its age. It came out of there good. A little dark as you would expect from old oil, but no grit or anything nasty within it. So that was awesome. Got the filter out of there, went to the local auto parts store. Fortunately, it having a Buick engine in it meant that Napa had, well, they had an oil filter for it, and I guarantee they probably wouldn't have had it for the original Jaguar motor. So we'll slip that new baby in there, fill it up full of oil, and then we'll be ready to run it again as well. Now, we had soaked the oil, or soaked the cylinders with a bunch of Marvel mystery oil in there. A lot of that stuff works its way into the pan as well. So we had to get rid of that. We ended up soaking the little filter at the bottom there at the drain plug, and then we turned our attention to the fuel tank. So there was nothing in the fuel tank other than just a little tiny bit of muck, but it came out easily once we pulled the drain plug on that. We decided to flush the tank out, and so we did that with the old garden hose, and everything flowed very smoothly, which was really nice. Some little crusties in there, but nothing major coming out. And that was pretty pleasing. I mean, fortunately, everything seemed to flow freely. We ended up holding the pressure in at the bottom, trying to fill the tank up a little bit more to the top, thinking that there may be more rust hanging out in the upper regions of the tank rather than in the very bottom. And that seemed to be pretty effective, because once Seb pulled the sand off of there and the waterfall came, we saw a few more crispy critters come out of there. But overall, it wasn't bad at all. So once that aired out, we blew some air in there to dry it out. It was a good warm day. Tried to get all the water out of there as much as possible. We tested the fuel pump here, and sure enough, it's working. So we ended up putting that electric fuel pump back in there and putting some fuel in the tank. Unfortunately, it looks like we've got a leak. So not leaking bad, just a little drip here around the drain plug. And then over on the other side, it looks like there might be a little pinhole at the seam here. That's just not going to fly. You can't have leaking fuel behind the car. So we ended up giving up on that and turning our attention to electrical stuff to see if we can get the engine to start with some switches under the dash. So a quick little hot wire job with an ignition switch and a starter button, and we'll be set to restart it once we get the fuel system worked out. Well, there goes another day of play
if you want to call it that, out of here in the shop. And we did get quite a bit done. Unfortunately, we hit some stumbling blocks. So the Jaguar fuel tank, we got it all hooked up. We got it cleaned out. Everything was looking good until we actually put some fuel in it. And, well, quite frankly, I think that thing's rusty and it's got some pinholes in it. So we had some seepage out of one side, the little drain bung in the bottom. I think there was a little rust right around that. And so that was dripping out of there. And then when we went to kind of drain it, we ended up having a big old mess, big fuel spill here. Drove us absolutely crazy, but we got it cleaned up nice and safe, and everything is good, and we've got the car stuff back in the garage. So it's obvious that the fuel tank is bad and needs replacement. We looked into pulling it out of there. It's kind of a pain in the butt because of the way the exhaust is done, the dual exhaust for the V8. There's a splash pan underneath there and stuff as well. So I think what we're going to do temporarily is I've got a cool moon tank that I've got from another project. We're going to install it in the back there and then hook that up and make sure that we can get the whole car running and driving and stuff. So the moon tank will be going in shortly. The fuel pump, we got it working on the bench, but once we got it down in there, it wasn't really pumping fuel. So I think it may be toast underneath there. So we've got to get a new fuel pump as well. The lines are clear, but if we're going to run a different tank, I think we'll just run a fresh line from that tank to the new fuel pump and to the carburetor, so we know that we've got a good clean fuel system in there, and then we'll give it another go. But we did indeed get the electrical sorted out, so we've got an ignition switch, we've got a starter button. We'll be able to start this thing up and move it. We've tested all of that. The engine does crank. Everything is looking good there. So it was a ton of work, a super hot day, absolutely kicked my butt dealing with the fuel spill and all the other stuff. I mean, it's, I'm just plain done. But in any case, it was progress, and a good time was had as much as possible between Sebastian and I. Another thing I sorted out was putting some new tires on the Dune buggy. I took this on a recent trip up to Big Bear with the Manx Club. Ended up having a flat tire because I've got some old tires on there. I've got new ones installed. I dealt with a wheel bearing issue on the driver's side front, so now that's sorted out. I was having some idle issues. We lost a vacuum plug off of the manifold. Now that's fixed. It's running right. And the next thing to do after the Manx Club trip is to check the rear suspension, because I think I was a little hard on the old girl and she's a little saggy in the backside. In any case, that was our day. I hope you enjoyed following along. Stay tuned for next week. We've got a bunch of really fun stuff going on. We're going to be working on the Brubaker Box. We're going to be working on another Meyers Manx. We're going to be laying some paint down, doing finished bodywork, painting both of those vehicles and getting them a lot closer to being done. And hopefully we will get the radiator in for the Mercedes. We can get that car up and on its wheels and running and driving on its own. And if I get all the parts for the Jag, well, maybe we can do that as well. I don't know. That's a lot for a week. But anyway, we'll give it a shot. So anyway, stay tuned, please. And thank you so much for watching. Definitely enjoy sharing the projects here at the lab with you all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.